Well, the project that I'm going to be talking about today is another literature review. Was conducted at the University of Wisconsin-Madison last year, where I am, and the co-director of this project was Dr. Nancy Wong. And we were fortunate to have this supported also by the Social Security Administration as one of the projects of the Financial Literacy Research Consortium at UW-Madison. So just to start here, one of the my motivations for getting involved in this project was actually stemmed from a project that Dr. Karen Holden and I conducted the year before last that was funded by the National Endowment for Financial Education. And that project looked at teachers' readiness to teach financial literacy education in K-12 schools, and also looked at their own financial issues. And one of the things that we found in that study was that teachers felt largely unprepared to teach financial literacy, but particularly to use online resources and to modify instructional resources for diverse audiences. So, so it's not really surprising that we found that, somewhat distressing, but not really surprising, because the literature really, the teachers really don't have a lot of guidance, or haven't had a lot of guidance from the literature on, why might we expect certain approaches or certain online resources to be more effective or less effective. And so what we wanted to do was to provide some theory-based guidance here for that purpose. So we set out to identify some theoretical perspectives that might be helpful. And one of the purposes was to review theories of human behavior, and another was to examine what the literature said about how technology might support learning in terms of providing access, supporting learning tasks and processes, and enhancing motivation. And then we hope to be able to come up with a heuristic or some kind of a model for using educational and behavioral theory that would help us harness the power of technology for both designing education interventions and nurturing financial well-being. And of course, we also wanted to derive some recommendations for further research as well. So the first part of our project actually was to look at a number of behavior theories. And as you might expect, we found lots of them in the literature. And in the paper, which actually is posted on our financial literacy website at the Center for Financial Security website at University of Wisconsin-Madison, both the full working paper as well as the brief, you'll find the frameworks that we reviewed. And they do suggest some points of intervention for financial education using what we think of as an ecological model. What we did was we selected two frameworks that we thought had particular relevance at 4 different levels of specificity. 2 at the individual level, 2 that focus on interpersonal relationships, 2 that focus on community organization level, and 2 at the system policy level. And we believe that they may be complementary, suggesting that it would be appropriate and perhaps even more effective to employ more than one of those at a time. So I don't have time today, obviously, to discuss each one of these theories in detail, so I'll just hit the high points. I'll just mention what they are and hit the high points on some of them here. At the individual level, one of the theories we looked at was Fishbein and Ajzen's theory of reasoned action, which was extended to the theory of planned behavior and actually the integrated behavior model as well. And what this theory points out is the important role of beliefs in the intention to behave in a certain way, and posits that intention then is a key determinant of behavior. The trans-theoretical model of change that's attributed to James Prochaska is another one that we looked at, which suggests that behavior emerges through a series of stages and processes over time rather than just happens on a dime. And then at the interpersonal level, rather than zeroing in on just an individual's characteristics as the determinants of behavior, social cognitive theory and social networks theory look at the reciprocal interaction between and among personal, behavioral, and environmental factors. And social cognitive theory, as proposed by Bandura, suggests that cognition plays a mediating role there between environmental stimuli and one's response to that people learn by observing others, and particularly that people are more likely to model the behavior of those who are like them. And then there are a number of actually social capital theories that are one type of social network theory. James Coleman, for example, and Robert Putnam, we looked at those, which basically suggest that people reap non-economic rewards through their interactions with other people and through their social relationships, including things like knowledge, information, reciprocal obligations, and norms for behavior. And then after some feedback that we got at an August conference, we also included some information about family theory, family systems theory, that could be helpful here too. At the community or organization level, we looked at diffusion of innovation theory and what makes savings campaigns, for example, successful, and what causes information to go viral on the internet. There's a fascinating study by Berger and Milkman on why people forward articles that appear in the New York Times. And basically one of the main reasons is that they do it to help develop a social connection with others. And then we also looked at some of the theories related to community organizing and community building, and saw that those theories are emphasizing building community strengths, and not just how to get people more engaged in issues affecting them at the community level, but how to take more critical action or to confront some of the challenges that may be disadvantaging people in their communities. And then finally, at the systems policy level, we looked at social marketing theory, which you've heard a lot about in some of the other sessions, as well as choice architecture, or some of the concepts from behavioral economics, which you've also heard a lot about. So I won't go into that. Then the second part of the study really looked at, or the literature review, focused on examining what technology had to offer in terms of supporting or affording learning. And we use the term affordance in terms of both the attributes of the technology as well as the kinds of interactions that the technologies, between the technologies and the people that use them. And we spent quite a bit of time also looking at how people are using the internet, and you've heard some of the statistics about that today. 75% of adults are online regularly, as are 93% of teenagers, and there seems to be a trend toward the use of more specialized applications or apps, and particularly mobile technology. So in terms of affordances of technology, we looked at the ways in which technology can enhance both access and motivation to learning. And in terms of expanding access to personal finance education, technology has the capacity to provide a great deal of flexibility in terms of how, when, and where learning occurs. It's sometimes referred to as mode, pace, and place, and can also support motivation to learn by providing a sense of competence, a sense of autonomy, and belongingness. Self-determination theory is one of the frameworks that helps there, as well as flow or immersion and fun. And we've heard a lot about that in some of the other sessions describing gaming. They certainly are engaging. One of the statistics that was given in a session this morning is that 69 million people are now playing Farmville on a regular basis. 12 million people are subscribers, paid subscribers, to World of Warcraft, which is a massively online game. And almost half of parents play video games with their children at least once a week. So clearly there's something there. And then in terms of the ways in which technology supports learning tasks and processes, we looked at a distinction between, or we made a distinction between using technology for learning from learning versus learning with. And we argue in the paper that a learning with technology perspective is much more consistent with constructivist learning theories and also with human behavior theories that suggest that financial behavior is not just a function of one's level of knowledge at any given time, but that rather knowledge is continually constructed and reconstructed over time, and that behavior is also a function of other social and environmental factors that change over over time. So we argue that educators who recognize that context or when situation affects learning will want to provide authentic teaching and learning experiences, and we examine in the paper how technology can be used to do that. The learning with perspective is characterized by activities that are more authentic, less formal, involve others, provide for reflection, and give learners control. And games and simulations offer special potential for developing financial management expertise by provided they nurture situated understanding, effective social practices, promote shared values, and powerful identities. And that's based on the work of Jim G. and David Schaefer. Okay, we also talk some about access to technology and vulnerability, and we argue in the paper that lack of access to technology may actually create or reinforce financial vulnerability, and that access is not just having appropriate hardware, but also the capacity to make meaningful use of it. And one of the aspects of being able to make meaningful use of technology is helping learners understand how to define their information needs and how to identify and evaluate internet-based financial information. And also having access to learning opportunities that support diverse needs. And we've heard in some of the other sessions about how those needs may relate to things like life cycle stage, language and literacy differences, cultural background, and so on. And then the other thing we talk about in the paper is having encouragement and support for informal or self-directed learning, and not just learning that is directed by professionals, by educators or other professionals. And then finally, to summarize this all up, we created this model or heuristic that sort of pulls this all together and suggests that in designing or selecting technology-based financial education tools and resources, that we might consider what we know about theories of human behavior, what educational theory has to say about how technology can enhance access, enhance motivation, and support learning tasks and processes, and that we might also consider what we know about the nature of learners, such as their individual learning characteristics, their past knowledge and skills, trigger events that we've heard about, as well as the learning context. And of course, we also point out that the philosophical and ideological environments within which the learning tools and resources are used will be important. And what this model also suggests is that education, the space of educational intervention, is simply one point of intervention. There are a variety of other factors that are likely to affect financial behavior. And the arrows going both up and down on the affordances of technology suggest that technology can support or not learning and behavior depending upon how it's used, and that probably there is no one size fits all. And we did derive a number of recommendations for research and practice, but I think I'll stop there in the interest of time, and you can read those in the paper or the brief. Thank you.
Thank you.